Take a stroll with me as I walk down memory lane and take a look at some of my favorite role-playing game characters from the past. So, stick around! Hello everybody and welcome to Sentimental. With all the D&D episodes that I've done over on Days of Dorker Past, they get me thinking. They get me thinking about my past of D&D, Marvel superheroes, and some other role-playing games. So I dug out one of my character binders here. Got a cool picture of Thundar here on the back of it. And I just thought it might be fun to take a look at some of my characters and hopefully have an anecdote or two about the games that they were in. So let me dive on in and let's see what we got here. The first page here is a Marvel superhero character named Redwire. It's actually a name that I took off of a character from the comic book Scout by Tim Truman. And I kind of took some inspiration from the character. This was really, really long ago. This had to be 91, 92. Well, I have a picture of the character that my friend Matt Plog drew. He is a freelance artist that does a lot of work in role-playing games and some comic books. And the date that he has on here is actually 94, so I'm a little bit off on the date here. But this was a character for a campaign that was run where we were playing supervillains. And this is a character that's an expert sniper, to the point of it being almost a mutant power, where he had auto bullseye, weapons tinkering, and invisibility to machinery, which was always cool. The X-Men, after the fall of the mutants, had this power across the board. They all had it. And that's why a lot of people in the comics thought that they were dead, because they had invisibility to machinery. So no one could take pictures of them. They wouldn't show up in film, things like that. Anyway, from what I can remember, this was kind of a tongue-in-cheek game. It didn't really go anywhere. I got a cool picture of the character out of the deal. But that's about it. I don't remember too much about him. And I think this version of the character sheet is a hero version that I made many years later, because the villain game didn't really go anywhere. And like I said, he has auto bullseye, which is a power that the Daredevil villain Bullseye had as well. And when I first started out role-playing, I took a lot of inspiration from the comics and movies and even video games I was playing at the time. It was much later that I could be confident enough to create a wholly original character. I mean, 94, I'd been playing various games for 5 years, pretty much, weekly, monthly. But then this leads to another character that I took heavy inspiration from because I just wanted to play it. And I was given a chance to play an Animun in D&D 3rd edition. It was a race that was made for the, what was it, Mythic Races book. It was another D20 supplement book, not made by Wizards of the Coast, but was compatible with it. And I just had to make myself a samurai rabbit Animun. And I named him Nusagi Kogan. And of course, he was a blatant ripoff of Usagi Yojimbo, and I had a lot of fun. It was a game, and I had the stats to back it up, where we just mowed down droves and droves of people. And the game was actually run in, I forget what the campaign setting was, but it was another D20 compatible universe that kind of took over for Spelljammer, because Wizards of the Coast wasn't making Spelljammer anymore. So anyway, here we go with another, well, we'll get to him when I can find the picture of him, because I have many versions of a character named The Shield. And yes, he was based on Captain America, but more so he was based on an old, I forget what, Charlton or one of those type of characters, of a character named The Shield. And he actually was a grandson, great-grandson of that original hero. Here's a character I never got to play that I'll get into another day, because I have a book about yay thick of NPCs and character ideas that I never got to play. And we'll jump into that at another time. Here was a Viking type of character I made named Ortok Jorn. He used a warhammer and a short sword. He was a two-handed fighter. And I got him all the way up to level 21. So yeah, he went through some stuff. I can't really remember a lot of the games he was in, unfortunately. But I can remember these characters. I have a list of monsters that he killed. I guess because when we were divvying out experience here. What's some of these notes here? Oh, a big list of inventory. Oh. Banshees. An air elemental. Skeleton guards. Displacer beasts. Ettercaps. Bone ooze. So yeah, another bad character, bad in a good way, character where he killed many things, and we had to take inventory of what we did kill so we could get experience at the end of the night. Here's another character I made, and this has a weird inspiration. Again, this is a very early character that I made, early 90s. And his name was Mammoth. Here's a picture of him. And he was actually a very short in stature, like a super speedster to a degree, because he had a super fast charging attack and he had very high body resistance. He was monstrously strong, which is really good. But I actually took inspiration from him from a Marvel one-shot back in the early 90s or late 80s called The Power Pachyderms, which took weird inspiration from Marvel characters. You had these elephant people. One of them was like Cyclops. He had a ruby at the end of his trunk that he could shoot, you know, ruby blasts out of, because he'd have to pop the cork out, the ruby cork if you will, and mow down enemies. You had one that was like Wolverine that had retractable tusks. One that was like Elektra that she used Scythe. And I can't remember if there was another one. Those are the three that stood out, but I thought there was a fourth one. I could be wrong. I might have to dig it out one day and take a look at it. Another character that, man, this is looking sad, that I took inspiration from was the Crimson Ghost, which was the mascot of the Misfits, and it was an old black and white serial movie type of thing. But this was the Scarlet Spectre. There's the character sheet, there's the character, painted by my friend Matt, that all these artwork pieces are from. And this is kind of like we were playing a pulp hero type of game. And this is a cross between the Phantom and the Crimson Ghost. He had hypnotic voice, shadow casting, stealth as his powers. And he used 45s. Let's see here. Here is a character named Nightrunner. That's a pencil picture. Might not come out that great. Called Nightrunner. And the game campaign was very much based on the comic Rising Stars, if you can remember that. Where a bunch of kids were all born with powers, and a lot of them retired, and the story kicks off where someone is killing them. And there was like a big catastrophe, and the story peeled away layers as the book went. This campaign took inspiration from that, where we were all the same age, born on the same day, and we all had superpowers. Which at the time, that book was pretty revolutionary, but there's been a lot of things that has taken inspiration from that over the years. But this is a character that had life force vampirism, shadow teleport, shadow control, things like that. And I always liked giving my characters disabilities or disadvantages. This guy's was he could not handle sunlight. So if you can see in the picture, he has like welding goggles, or like the goggles that they use like in the Antarctic, where it's just slits so he can see out of. Man, I sound really bad with my Marvel characters that I ripped off so many. Here, when I played a mainline Marvel game, see who I played, Nightcrawler. And Marvel used to have these great character sheets that you would buy in a big collection. They're very expensive, and you had to get a lot of them to actually get a full roster of Marvel characters. But I had the Nightcrawler one, because that was the character I would play in a mainline Marvel game. Here is one of my favorite D&D characters from 3rd edition, Delmarian Del Brassroots. His big sickle there, Scythe. And I played him that he was a character that didn't know where he fit in the world. He was a dual class of a barbarian and a druid, and I believe later they gave that prestige class a name, which was called the Tribal Protector. But he used a giant magic sickle that he got, and it was a great game where our characters all washed ashore in a ruined city that had been overrun by monsters, and neighborhoods in this ruined city were run by different gangs of monsters, and it started off having like a Warriors feel to it, where we were trying to make our way out and running into these different gangs of monsters that had different motifs. But the game just kept getting bigger and deeper as we were going, and it was so much fun to be pretty much the minority in a ruined city of monsters all out to kill us. One of the cool things was one of the gangs experimented and mutated animals. As a druid with this character, I held off getting a animal follower for so many levels because it's just, I kept saying, I want to find something cool, I want to find something cool, I want to find something unique. So the game master of that game allowed me to befriend one of these mutated animals, and it became my pet, my follower, and it was a large golden bear that they were trying to mutate into an Armvorax, which is a six-legged Wolverine for all intents and purposes in the D&D universe. But this was a bear-sized one, and had so much fun, so much heart in that game. I loved it. It was one that we played week after week after week for so many years. It was great. It was one of the best times I've ever had with D&D. And it was actually run by that guy Matt that did all this art. Here's another ranger that I played. Don't remember anything about him. Here is a Dwarven monk I played that had a heavy flail named Carrick Iron Skull. What's his character sheet? Can I glean any memories from that? A dwarf, lawful evil. Oh, he's actually multi-class, a cleric and a monk. With a heavy flail. I remember, and he had cleave as one of his feats, so I can remember him whirling around with that heavy flail, cleaving through enemies, which was awesome. Here's that character, the shield I mentioned. This is a character sheet that my buddy Matt drew up for me. I never used it because I like the art on it, so I didn't want to ruin it. As you can see, there's some old Pokemon stickers on there from like the original run of Pokemon. That's how long I've been with this character, since the mid-90s. But he was a very swashbuckling type of character, a braggart. I remember one time a villain was in the middle of his monologue and I just attacked him in the middle of it. That was the type of character it was. He just cracked jokes and didn't really put up with anything. This is a blind ninja character that I had named Blindside. He used a magic naginata, which is like a polearm, and he had martial arts powers, mutant powers. The game it was a game that the dude that ran it invested so much time and energy into, and he practically was getting burned out on it, so he would do these really weird things. So like eventually my character found out he was an alien and all this stuff, which was weird, but I went along for the ride. Excuse me. Here's another one of my favorite characters. This is Grey Bale, and he was a gnoll. Another Pokemon sticker on there. And he, even though I had this cool cleaver in the picture, which I did use, but the character later turned into a character that used bullwhips. That was really fun. A character named Hellion that I had. This is also back from '94. And that's what he would look like with his mask, but then he would rip it off. Kind of Venom-like in that regard. But he was someone that was possessed by a demon, hence his tail there and all. But he was like a evil, yet had to be good type of demon that kind of like Nightcrawler with his powers. Not with teleporting, but with hyper leaping and stuff like that. Eventually I gave up playing the shield. I'd played him for years, and I wanted to play a character kind of like that again. So I made up the Highwayman. And he took his inspiration from Blue Beetle. See, his coach there was very much like Blue Beetle's bug. He had an Omni gun like Blue Beetle. An Omni mask, which means a respirator could pop out of it, different telescoping lenses and such. But this was another type of swashbuckling character I wanted to play. Very much based on the Ted Cord Blue Beetle. Had a lot of fun with him. And that was towards the latter half of me playing Marvel superheroes. This is from 1999. This is a character called Bobcat. And he was a genetic mutation that was created by a company that wanted to sell their technology, that they can mutate animals. And they created him as a spokesperson. They gave him a college level education that he'd be well spoken. He was their spokesman. But with his very small stature, he was super strong, super fast. Everything that this company would want their product to be, to sell to the army or any federal government. He was a lot of fun. I remember one game I actually played with a lot of strangers, and this is not like me, but gave a big "we can do it" speech, because that's what the character should have been doing. And it really, after the fact, really blew me away that I had the guts to do that. We were like assaulting the villain's island and had to get everybody on board. You know, it, like I said, really out of my comfort zone, and had fun with that. Okay, I'll do one more and then save the rest for another day, if everyone even enjoys this. But it's a character named Tribe that I played in Mutants and Masterminds, which was another superhero role-playing game that came out. I don't have a picture of him, but what Tribe was, he was a African fellow that had self-multiplication, like Multiple Man. And he could duplicate in, it doesn't say here how many. I think 8 different, he could do it 8 different versions of himself. And it was a tribal power, and when he duplicated himself, they didn't look like him, they looked like ancient historic African combatants. And I had a lot of fun with that character. Great role-playing of the character, which I had a great time doing, because he was like a tribal historian, professor. It was a world group like the Avengers or something, so it was all these different characters from different nationalities on one team, so we had a lot of great repertoire going back and forth, and it was just a great and fun power to face off against, you know, a super duper villain that thinks he's going to take you out, and all of a sudden you turn into 8 other versions of yourself and you all attack him. Super fun. Anyway, I hope this wasn't boring. Like I said, this is sentimental, so this is the show where I just talk to you guys. If any of you out there used to play role-playing games or still do, let me know what some of your favorite characters were. Let me know what some of your favorite games were. One day in the future, I would love to get like an online gaming group together with some of you that like to game or are interested in trying it. Anyway, this has been Sentimental. Thank you for watching. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. I was just in the mood to go through this book and I thought I'd share it with you guys. Anyway, if you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down, and I apologize. If you got something to say, leave a comment. Tell me about some of your favorite gaming memories. If you're new and you liked what you saw, hit the subscribe. Hit the little bell and you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode, twice a week. Anyway, until next time, keep being rad, stay dorky, see ya!